Now, let's talk about how to get more people to show up at events. That's what I'm excited about today. It's the one skill out of the 7 skills I think is the highest paid skill. And in my career, fortunately for me, when I first got started in network marketing, the skill of getting people to show up at events was something that I was kind of naturally good at. I could get people to show up. I could get people to come to my house. I could get people to come to a small event on a Tuesday night at a hotel. I could get people to commit to regional events and destination events. I was pretty good at it for whatever reason. So the good news for me is it made up for so many things I wasn't good at that it allowed me the time to develop the other skills, or at least find out what those other skills were. But I think it's true that everybody wants more people to show up at events. We got one-on-one events, two-on-one, small group events, local events, regional events, destination events. There's a lot of truth to the phrase, meetings make money. Meetings do a lot of things, and excuse me, I need to get some water. Meetings do a lot of things for people, for prospects, and for people looking at an opportunity for second exposure, third exposure, whatever. They give people social proof. They give people a view that is hard to see through their friend. They might need to have some third-party validation. Usually there's some excitement, there's some stories, a lot of things going on at events that don't normally happen one-on-one. So the one thing that people get frustrated with when they get involved in network marketing is they invite a bunch of people to an event and nobody shows up. And I will tell you, the reason people don't show up at events is because they never intended to. You ask them, hey, will you come to this event? They say, yeah, sure. But they never intended to come. They never intended to be there. They never intended to follow through. They were just trying to be what they thought would be polite. They were coming up with a way to end the conversation. They never intended to. They said yes to get rid of you. And really the issue is you didn't convey enough value to them to justify the time. You know, when they didn't show up, what that really says is something else was more important. And you didn't communicate to them that this would be more important than anything else that would show up. People lead busy lives. What happens is, let's say you invite somebody to a home meeting. And the person says, yeah, I'll come over. Sure, why not? And they get home and they lose their motivation to leave again. They get home from work and they change their clothes and they turn on the TV and there's some food there for dinner and they're like, do I really want to drive across town? They're probably not going to miss me. It's going to be okay. I can skip out on this one. I'm home now anyway. Or same thing's true for, let's say it's a local event in a hotel room or something. Same thing's true. They get home and they're like, I really don't feel like getting dressed again and leaving the house. They're tired after their day at work, right? People are nervous about meeting a group of strangers also. So I'm giving you all kind of the reasons why they don't show up. They're nervous about going into a room full of strangers. They're nervous about the unknown. Life happens. So all of these different reasons are why prospects. Now I'm going to talk about 2 different categories, okay, of getting people to attend events. One category are prospects that are going to be attending a one-on-one, two-on-one, small group, breakfast meeting, lunch meeting, home meeting, local opportunity meeting, those types of things. That's one group of people, and I'm describing what happens to them. The second group I'm going to talk about later is getting distributors to attend events, attending training events, attending regional events, attending national events, international events, company conventions, those types of things. Because both of those things will do well for you. They'll help you make money. So when it comes to prospects, 1, they're busy. 2, they're tired. 3, they're nervous. 4, stuff shows up, life gets in the way. The biggest reason for all of that, though, is if you haven't shown them enough reasons that this event is more important than all this other stuff, the other stuff's going to overwhelm them, and they're not going to come. Okay? So key concepts for prospects when you are inviting them to something. 1 is enthusiasm. If you're excited about what it is that you're inviting them to, if you're just going through the motions and you're just saying, hey, we have this event and we have it all the time, and if you want to swing by, that kind of stuff. What I've found is a lot of people apologize in the invitation. Look, I know that I haven't given you enough time. And look, I'm sorry that, I know that, whatever, I'm sorry for bothering you to take a look at this. And, oh gosh, I know it's on the other side of town. And they apologize and apologize and apologize and apologize and back up where they're expecting the person to say no. So even if the person says yes, they've done it. There's so many seeds of doubt planted. They're like, yes, it is across town. Yes, it was short notice. Yes, I don't have a lot of time. Yeah, I'm justified now in not taking a look. So you need to have posture, be strong, pump yourself up. When I was inviting to an event, I would literally listen to music that got me energized beforehand, just for a few minutes. Listen to some music, get my energy right, and make sure I had a smile on my face, and I got on the phone and I started calling with enthusiasm. Guess what? We have something amazing. With energy, with urgency. It has to be this Tuesday. There's whatever else you have going on, you got to move your schedule. You got to make this happen this Tuesday, this Thursday, this Friday, whatever the day it is. So there's always urgency in there. So I always put in enthusiasm, lots of enthusiasm, lots of energy, lots of urgency, and also lots of compliments. I was always complimenting the person like crazy. So I'll give you some ideas. You've heard, if you follow Network Marketing Pro at all, is if I would you. If I would you, right? If I did this, would you do that? So the same thing works here, is if I invited you to this special invitation-only event in my home, would you attend? I haven't invited you yet, but if I did, would you attend? If I invited you to this executive luncheon, would you join me? If I invited you to this special showcase, this special event at this hotel on such and such a day, would you join me? And for prospects, what I learned was if you followed my 8-step invitation formula when it comes to talking to people on the phone to get them to take a look at something, it's a little bit different to get them to come to events, but you saw my follow-up process. So if I gave you this, would you watch it? When would you do it for sure? So if I called you after that, you've done it for sure, right? What's the best number and time for me to call? Those types of things. It's the same kind of thing with events. But I'll give you an example. It's a little bit different. It's about questions and commitment and assignments. So here's what I mean by that. I invite you. I say, listen, there's this, I compliment you. I don't have a lot of time. I'm running out the door. I compliment you. I've always appreciated you. You got a really good head for business. You see things other people don't see, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I do the invite. Listen, there's something. It might be for you. It might not. But I would really be interested in your opinion on it. They're doing a kind of an overview of this company on Tuesday night at the Marriott Hotel. And it's, 20 minutes away in this town close to us. If I invited you to sit in with me, kind of go in, sit there, kick the tires and check it out, would you go with me? Would you attend? And they're going to say yes, they're going to say no. But if, typically, not typically, but a good portion of the time, people say, well, yeah, give me the time, when it is, when is it. If they say no, then you can follow down that path. But if they say yes, then a lot of people say, well, fantastic, I'll see you Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, got to go. And it's at that hotel, got to go. But that's not what I did. Here was my secret. My secret was I would spend 2 more minutes on the phone and I would lock up that commitment. I'll give you an example. So if I invited you, would you attend, right? They say yes. Yeah, sure, I'll attend. Then I would do something like this. I would say, do you know where the hotel is? Do you know the location? They would say, yeah, I think so. Well, do you want me to send you a little map quest? Do you want me to send you the address? Do you want me to send you whatever? They say, they finally say yes to that. Then I say, are you going to come straight from work or are you going to go home first? So I would ask when basically they're leaving. You're going to be leaving from the office or from home? I'm going to leave from home. All right, so about how long is it from your house to that hotel? And they say, well, it's 20, 25 minutes. I said, well, I'd love to meet you about 15 minutes before the thing starts. It starts at 7 o'clock, so that would mean you need to leave about 6:15. Is that going to work? For you to leave your house at 6:15? So, they say home, they're going to leave from home. And then I say, so 6:15 is about the time. You're going to leave at 6:15? And they'll say, yeah, then they're going to start thinking about their life. They're going to say, well, what time do you normally get home? I get home about 5:30. So you leave at 6:15. You can pretty much turn around and do that by 6:15. Yeah, sure, I'll do that by 6:15. Okay, now do you feel the difference? I just spend a couple minutes just kind of locking this down. Because if I don't do this, they're going to get home and they're going to say, gosh, I don't have time to turn around and all that stuff. But I've already planted all this in their brain. Now, I'm going to say, listen, when you get there at 6:45, I want to meet you, just so you know where it all is. When you walk into the main lobby, so there's a lobby location. Lobby location, there's this big flower arrangement in the main place. I'm going to be standing at that flower arrangement. I'll just plan on meeting you at 6:45. So they say sure. All right, fantastic. I'll give you a call, maybe a day ahead of time just to make sure we're all connected. But I got to go. I'll see you later. Okay? Now, every one of these questions that they've answered, it went from, yeah, I'll be there, to serious about them being there. Way serious about them being there. Okay? So this simple little process right now, I promise you when it came to inviting people to an event, quadrupled the results of anybody who they did this. If I invited you, would you come? And they didn't even do that. They just say, I have an event. Would you come to the event? They didn't even do if I would you. But even if they went that far and they just stopped there, their results are 10% of what I got. I had people show up, man. I got people to show up at events. Now, this is one approach, okay? This is one approach. Here's another approach that I used, okay? Now, you may want to use this, you may not. But when I was launching my business, if you're ever involved in a campaign, if you're involved in a launch, whatever, I did this and it worked. If you love me, say, listen, there's this big regional event. Or I'm hosting my own event for the very first time. I'm nervous. There's this big event. And, I would really appreciate your support. So to my family, if you love me, you'll come. I'm doing a home meeting in my house. I don't care if you sign. I don't care if you join. I don't care if you become a customer. It doesn't matter to me. But what I do care about is that you support me. You know, so if I invited you to my house, will you just come sit there, nod your head, poke the person next to you and say, boy, isn't he something? Would you do that, please, for me? Would you give 1 hour of your life for me? Because I'd give it for you. Right? And I did this with my family. I did this with my friends. There was an event probably, I'm guessing maybe 60 days into my network marketing career. And somebody said, whoever brings the most people to this event is going to win. And they were going to have some prize for whoever brought the most guests. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go after this. And I went crazy. I called every family member. I said, if you love me, you'll be there. I called every single friend. I said, if you're my friend, you'll be there. I called every prospect I could think of. And I said, you got to be there. And I also told all of these groups that, listen, this is a once-ever event. The company's vice president is coming into town, and it may never happen again in the history of Minnesota. Okay? So if you know some people that might like what you're about to see at this event, you should bring them along. If you got a list of 3, 4, 5 people that if you decided to do something, those would be the 3, 4, 5 you'd call them now and have them come kick the tires with you at the same time. Well, I was 23 years old and had no skills other than I just pounded this to death. I had, at that first event, 120 people. 120 people at that event. Sponsored about 20 out of those 120. A lot of them were there just to support, and that's fine. But the 20 surprised me. I didn't expect the 20 that, you know, and they signed up over the course of probably 45 days after that. But 120 at that first event. And I remember I got a $100 bill from the speaker. Who has the most guests? And they were standing up. Who has more than 50? And I kept standing. Who has more than 60? And I kept standing. Finally, I was the only one left at 120. Ran up there, grabbed my $100 bill from the speaker from stage. It was awesome, right? But what did I do? I was committed. I went after this and I said, if you love me, you'll show up. Now, the second time I used this was probably maybe a year into my career. And I was proud of something up until that point. We did weekly opportunity presentations at the local hotel. And my claim to fame, I had a claim to fame. My claim to fame was I always had at least one guest at every presentation. Always. Every week. I'd have somebody sit next to me that was a guest, a prospect. And nobody else was as consistent as me. I was good, man. Sometimes I'd have my own little row. I'd have 5 or 6. Sometimes I've had as many as 10, if there's a guest speaker or something. But I always had at least one. That was my baseline. And my whole business was around drag the people to that meeting, let the people do the presentation, and I'm going to sign some of them up. But the mentor in the area at that time, the main leader that was running the meetings, went out of town to build in another city for 90 days. So the meetings started to fall apart. And I don't mean like stop happening. They were just, the quality was terrible in the event. And they stopped having a display, and the music stopped, and they started doing, the air conditioning was always too hot or too cold, and the presenters weren't put together, and the testimonials weren't right, and it started being embarrassing. So I started bringing guests, and they were going like, why did you bring me to this? This is embarrassing. And I was like, well, gosh, I'm sorry. So I didn't know what to do, because that was my whole business. Drag bodies, put them in the seat, let them do the presentation. If they join with the company, I get a commission, for helping them get started and getting their product order. So I went to the little committee, and there was a committee that ran the meeting, and I said, this will all make sense to you in a second. Okay, I'm going to get back to this. But I went to the committee and said, guys, can we, and they were like, kid, please, give us, we got this, it's fine, it's fine. So I didn't know what to do, and I didn't have any money, so I decided that I was going to do my own event. They were doing theirs on Tuesdays. I was going to do it on a Thursday. And I went to the Embassy Suites, the airport Embassy Suites in Minneapolis, and I booked a room that could hold about 200 people. And it cost me $200 to book this room of money I did not have. I was borrowing my rent money, basically, in order to be able to rent the room. Okay? So I rent the room. Now, step one, I have to do all the things that I was complaining about. I've got to make sure the name tags are there, and I've got to make sure the mixtape and all that stuff is done for the music, and somebody's got to take care of the air conditioning. The display's got to be set up, and you got to have the little info packets for the guests, and you got to have a nice registration table, and all the stuff. So I do that, but that's the easy part. Guess what the hard part was? I can't just be sitting in that room that holds 200 people with me and one other person. I used to be proud of that just a week ago. Now, to not be embarrassed, to make sure I cover my costs and I figure out a way to be successful, I've got to put people in the room. So guess what I did? I did this. This is a year after being involved. I called all my family and said, if you love me, you'll be there. If I called my friends, if you love me, you'll be there. I called all the prospects I could get. And I never, ever had more than 8 or 9 people that I'd ever had in an event after that initial burst. I'm talking about the weekly events. Never. I was always like 1 or 2 or 3, right? Well, 10 days after I decided to do this, I made all these calls. My very first event had about 50 people in it. Very first one. Why? If you love me, you'll be there. Just be there. Just say, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Just nod your head and clap and laugh at the jokes and tell people that you're sitting next to that, boy, this is awesome. And guess what? Again, I sponsored a bunch of people, and my meetings went from 50 to 70 to 100, and then I took over the other meeting that was happening on Tuesday night because everybody heard what was going on. I started taking over the training. I will tell you, that little moment there with this approach changed my whole career. If I didn't do that, I don't know if I'd still be here today. If I didn't really go all out in order to be able to make that happen. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, when it comes to like home meetings, some of you promote towards home meetings. I'll do the same thing as this as far as details. Do you know where the house is? How long would it take for you to get there? Are you coming from home? Are you coming from work? All that kind of stuff. But on top of that, I'll ask, can you bring some ice? Why? I'm giving them an assignment. I'm making them part of the process. I'm involving them on top of asking the family, can you bring some chips? That kind of stuff. Will you pick up some chips on the way? Could you be there 15 minutes early? I'd appreciate it. Can you get some paper plates? Would you bring a bag of ice? I'd really, really appreciate that. So now I got to first of all, it makes the meeting really, really good because you invite 10 people and one's bringing cookies, one's bringing ice, one's bringing, some drinks, one's bringing whatever it is. You know what I mean? So you got a buffet, basically, from the people who are bringing little snacks, and everybody's kind of part of the process. It gives them a little ownership in the process. Okay? You don't really need to do these types of things for a one-on-one or two-on-one, but I've found for group meetings, whether it's at a restaurant or a home or whatever, anytime you can add, in addition to detail, the key concept here is detail. Get detail, get specifics. And here, the key concept is assignments. Okay, give them an assignment. Involve them in the process. Now they got a little ownership in making a successful event. The key concept here is support. Support. Okay, so a lot of people are really, really afraid to follow up when it comes to, once they get somebody who says yes. I'm not afraid to follow up at all. I would call the person, or I would send them a text or send them an email and just say, you know, hey, I'm just confirming you're going to be leaving around 6:15. You know, I'm going to meet you at the lobby at 6:45. I'm looking forward to it. Detail, right? With here, I'm just confirming you're going to support me. I appreciate you. Thank you in advance for supporting me. It's really great. For here, hey, I'm just confirming you're going to bring some chips, okay? Would you bring some cookies or something? Bring a bag of ice. You know, pick up some bottled water for me on the way over. You know, I'll help take care of it. I just need you to do that for me. So it's about assignments. It's about support. It's about detail. Okay? Now,